Let's see. We've got some economic news coming out. We got trade data coming out today, so we'll watch that. That should be out. I believe it's coming out at 10 o'clock Eastern time this morning. Trade deficit. We're likely to slip back into deficit territory, or not back into, deeper into, I should say. By the way, we also have some very interesting news coming out this morning. You heard yesterday my talking about some things that, from a negative standpoint, unfortunately, some things that had come out in the news that nobody seemed to be talking about. I was talking about China, the issues that China is buying up some more U.S. of the U.S. So we talked a little bit about that. We talked about the issues on food stamps, what's happening there as those numbers came in. Again, continuing to reach an all-time high, and we continue to see that increase by about 607,000 for the month of November. Got some very interesting news, again, coming out today that I want to talk about, because I think that it truly is one of the best indications of where we're headed. And most of it is basically due to the fiscal cliff. And frankly, if we go about our business here at the fiscal cliff and kick the can down the road, which is what I said, some time ago is going to happen. I mean, we're going to do it. We're going to kick the can down the road. It's what we do. It's something that we have learned. The only lesson, all the great lessons there could be that we could learn from Europe, we choose the one lesson that we shouldn't even be looking at, and that is the kicking the can down the road lesson. Right now, the U.S. stock futures are up slightly. The Dow was up 14 points yesterday. All the major indices up very, very slight. I mean, the S&P was barely up. The NASDAQ was up a little bit, and the Dow was up 14 points. But right now, it looks like the S&P or the U.S. Futures are looking positive right now, and the idea here is that investors are looking towards a two-day meeting that is kicked off today that the Fed is having. Two-day meeting that the Federal Reserve policymakers that's expected to provide further monetary stimulus. What monetary stimulus might that be? I don't know what that could possibly be. They don't have any other tools in the toolbox. So the only monetary stimulus that they're talking about, of course, is more buying by the Fed, more quantitative easing. So I guess what some are expecting here is that the Fed is going to make an announcement. So right now, folks, just to bring you up to speed, the Fed's got an unlimited buying powers now. They're no longer doing these announcements as to, well, I think we're going to buy $600 billion worth of debt. I think we're going to buy, $400 trillion. None of that anymore. It's just whatever they want to do. For as long as they want to do it, whether it's trillions and trillions of dollars is irrelevant. So the Fed announced, when they announced their QE forever, they announced that they would be buying up about $80 billion in mortgage-backed securities. So I guess the further monetary stimulus that they could be looking for is the Fed now saying, well, we're going to buy short-term treasuries, we're going to buy long-term treasuries, we're going to buy mid-term treasuries, those kinds of things. We're going to buy, we've decided to pick it up. Instead of 60 or 80 billion, we're going to buy 100 billion, whatever. I mean, they're looking for some sort of monetary stimulus. And that is, I guess, perceived as a good thing. And it probably is for the markets, not for the economy, but for the markets. There also, there's a Wall Street article saying this morning that they're also thinking about the idea that the Fed is going to keep an eye on talks amid avoiding the fiscal cliff. Well, Everybody's keeping their eye on that. And the Fed isn't going to do anything to avoid the fiscal cliff because the Fed can't do anything. What the Fed is likely to say is what the Fed has, continued to say. Ben Bernanke, which I happen to agree with, that he's going to say, in all likelihood, that Congress needs to act and they need to act now. He is probably going to reiterate some of the points that the Congressional Budget Office has already made. Things like we could slip back into a recession. We are looking at a 9%. The Congressional Budget Office came up with a 9.1% unemployment rate as we slip back into recession. My guess is that the Fed is going to talk a little bit about that and the importance of why Congress needs to act and talk about things like inflation and other things that everybody already knows about. So I guess we can almost predict what's going to come out of this 2-day meeting. The Fed has no choice but to urge the Congress to do something. They have no power to do anything. The Fed has talked about for years. Ben Bernanke came out and said flat out 2 years ago that I don't care about inflation, that I have the ability to control it. My guess is there should be some conversation in and around inflation as well. I think the Fed, if we see any indication out of these meetings that the Fed talks about allowing or increasing their inflation target. Their inflation target, by the way, is 2%, and they could increase that to 2.5% or 3%. If we see any signs of that, that will not be a good thing, folks. Because you've got to understand, and that is going to fall right in line with what I wrote about 2.5 years ago when I wrote my Reset Button article. I said then, and everything that I said back then pretty much has happened, that as the last resort, when the Fed finally comes to the same place that so many others are, meaning the stimulus thing didn't work the first time, didn't work the second time, didn't work the third time being Operation Twist. They don't count that, but it is the third time, and isn't working now. QE forever is not working. So when they come to that realization that it's not working and it does not appear that it's going to work, and I've got some reason to say why it sure doesn't appear that it's working, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but they're going to allow inflation. They're going to look at inflation as being helpful to the economy.